everyone, welcome back to my garden. This is week 3 of the summer 2020 garden tours. I am excited as always to share what's been growing in the garden this week and to share with you all what's been happening. So the first thing before we even go in this week, I added this little area because I just had too many plants for inside the gates, and these are actually all of the plants that I rescued from the clearance rack at Lowe's, with the exception of this coleus here in the front, which was gifted to me from one of my garden friends. This is lavender. I paid $5 for each of those, which is a steal. Dianthus, which is, those were $1. And then here are the lantana that I saved for $1 a piece. I was at my local nursery earlier this week, and they had a hanging basket of lantana for $25. So here's all my lantana for, that's $6 right there. And then my hibiscus, which I haven't transplanted anywhere. I'm still trying to figure out the best place for that. And then I got this on clearance at Joann Fabrics, which I thought it was super cute. So a little dirt never hurt, which is definitely my motto as a gardener. So as we walk into the garden this week, if you notice, my plants that are normally blocking my walkway in the front have cleared up significantly. I was able to bless a couple of different people with plants this week. My sister-in-law, one of my neighbors, also, well, not my immediate neighbor, but someone in my neighborhood gardens, and so I was able to give them both herbs and some medicinal plants to grow this year. So excited to knock this down, and I still have a few things here to either give away or find somewhere to put them. The strawberries are still growing well. The, again, star of the show has been this ever sweet strawberry, which is the only one that I've actually harvested from yet so far this year. We have some more strawberries coming in here, but the slugs or snails, something keeps beating me to these strawberries. So I tried to put a little bit more hay. I also checked under the hay for snails and slugs. I didn't see any. I checked a couple times this week, so I will continue to check that out. I also added a new strawberry plant. This is a yellow wonder, which is a I want to say white, but it looks white to me. Well, I guess it looks yellow, but it is a yellow strawberry. I've heard a lot of chefs love this strawberry. It's pretty popular in Europe. So I actually went to a nursery in Virginia and thought I had purchased a strawberry plant that had pink flowers, but unfortunately when it started to bloom, the flowers were white, and that's not what I wanted. So I took it back and got this yellow wonder to give it a try for this year. Tucked in a bee balm here this week. Not a bee balm, a lemon balm, because I had a lot of that. So I just tucked that in there for the time being. I still have not gotten this first barrel planted. I think I'm going to direct sow some flowers and some herbs just to have some beauty and color as I walk into the garden and as I hang out in my little area with my table and my chair. So I did, again, was able to give away some marigolds also that I had sown from seeds. So I still have a few left, and I think I'm going to try to give those away this week as well. Got some more potato slips in this container. A little late, but this weather has been funky, so hoping that there's enough time in the season for them to do what they need to do. I started these slips from a sweet potato from Mom's Organic, and so it actually took a while for them to develop, but I finally got them a few inches tall and got them rooted in the ground this week. The purple potted bean is growing up the trellis, so she's looking pretty happy. Looks like we're about to get some action on here as well, so I'm pretty excited. Someone else locally has already harvested from theirs, which just makes me more eager and excited to harvest from mine. The contender bush, this one is having a little trouble. The growth is stunted a little. I did transplant it over from the front because I wasn't sure how many of the seeds would germinate, and so when I transplanted it, the growth of it slowed down a little bit, but it still looks like it's going to do fine. These Market More cucumbers have grown significantly since last week. They still are growing a little bit slower, than the cucumbers in the raised beds, but they look pretty healthy. This week still was dealing with challenges, mostly the aphids, but I also did some maintenance of cucumbers this week, which I will share in a bit. I also continued harvesting flowers from the borage, which I made some more simple syrup, which I'm using in lemonade, cocktails, tea, everything. It's just so good to me. It tastes like a little bit like honey, just not as sweet, and honestly, and not the consistency of honey, but the flavor is light and refreshing. I love it. My daughter loves it. So excited that those every day I'm out here, they're just showing off. A lot of growth on the squash in these containers. You can see how big this leaf is. I've been trying to get them to stay inside of this tomato cage, which has been a little bit of a challenge, but I'll come through later and push those up in there so that it starts to grow upwards. The tomatoes are looking pretty good. These had flowers on them, and so I'm not sure if I wasn't paying attention to them or what, because they look like they've died off, but up here we have some more that look like they're coming in, and this is a Brandywine tomato. This was one of the tomatoes that I thought that I had cut the main stem, but it is continuing to grow taller and taller. There is a sucker that I let grow on here because I wasn't, again, sure what exactly I had snipped off, so I'm probably going to just leave that sucker on and leave those Brandywine tomatoes alone. I've harvested a lot of basil. Again, I have basil in front of, or somewhere in the proximity of, all of the tomato plants this year in an effort to repel pests. And if you can see down in there, we have our first, where is it? There it is. Our first squash. I believe this is a dark star zucchini. There were a lot of male flowers on here this week. Here's a squash blossom. So gonna wait for those to open up and hand pollinate those to ensure I get some squash here pretty soon. This is a Roma tomato. She's flowering. I also need to come through and tie up the tomatoes to the stakes again because they're starting to lean a little bit. These tomatoes in the front, I have squashed a few aphids off of them, but they seem to not have as many as some of the other tomato plants, one specifically in the raised beds. Look at this bee action. You see, the bees love it. I love it. If you don't have this planted in your garden, plant it because it brings all of the bees. Look at that. I mean, just enjoying it. I understand, little bee. More squash. Now, this was a battle that finally this week, maybe midway through, I was able to not have to fight as hard. You can see, and I think this leaf is probably a bit damaged from the diatomaceous earth spray that I hit this plant with. Again, trying to take care of the ants and the aphids, but again, finally, they seem to, for the moment, have gone away, gone somewhere else, and it is still growing. You can see some flowers on here, so hopefully we'll have lima beans here shortly. I did get the cucumber off of the fence and onto the trellis, but you can see this one has already grabbed a hold, so I'm probably going to just leave it. I can't fight that all season. A zinnia that was popped in there. Now these purple sweet potatoes are looking glorious. All of this foliage looks so pretty. And this purple potted bean seems to be a little bit behind the one in the barrel at the front of the garden, but still growing up the trellis. My raspberry bush, which I've still been harvesting raspberries. I came out here this morning and a bird, now I know y'all told me to cover up all my stuff, which I did cover my strawberries, but I didn't get the raspberry covered up, and I came out here this morning and a bird was in here flying around, and when it heard me, it grabbed a raspberry and flew off, and I couldn't even get my camera out in time to record it, but I just literally was like, you have the nerve to just carry off my fruit in my face. So I hope the little birdie enjoyed it. Now this is the bed where I pulled up all of those baby beets that I had on a post earlier this week, because again, I knew when I put them in that the chances that the beet would actually form were slim to none, but I was excited to get the few that I did get because again, I haven't had any success growing beets, so to get the baby beets was enough for me. I definitely will make sure that I get them sown earlier so that I can have some later in the season when the temperature cools down a bit. The Swiss chard is finally starting to take off. Look at the veins on the bright lights. Swiss chard, so pretty, that pop of yellow. Popped in a little sage right there. This early straight neck squash is still growing slowly, but it's growing, so just gonna let it do its thing. Hopefully it'll catch up to the others pretty soon. The potatoes are growing really well. I need to get some more dirt to add to the container, but they look really healthy. I'm super excited, and I pray that I get potatoes. And if anything, I tried and I learned from this experience, but I'm hopeful. Here's my spinach, which again I'm let go to seed to save those. The arugula, which I've been harvesting from, looks like there's a little bit of leaf miner damage on there, but it's growing pretty well. Well, this one looks like it's starting to bolt, but again, been harvesting from that every week, throwing it in salads. The corn is leaning. I need to come and rig up some kind of situation to give those stalks some support. The kohlrabi back there, the roselle is growing slowly, but it is growing. Let me see if I can get in here. So finally, and I'm growing these. I got these seeds for free from Baker Creek with an order that I placed, but it looks like they are forming a bulb. So again, I have no previous experience growing the kohlrabi, and they have been out here for a pretty long time. There were, I believe, 8 plants in here, and I thinned them out and transplanted the others to a grow bag, which are have been damaged by the pests, but they seem to be forming bulbs also. So excited about that. I think it was last week's video where I came across the surprise of the ground cherries, which are still on here. I was happy that the storms this week didn't knock them off before they were ready, and they are still growing. Look at that little flower. Too cute. The flowers are just adorable. And the gray zucchini has had a few male flowers as well. The sugar baby watermelon are growing up nicely. Also, this was a melon that was gifted to me from a friend. I can't remember what variety it is, but it seemed to have transplanted well. It was looking a little sad here initially. The calendula is looking good. I was able to pop off one of the little flowers, and from my research I found out that you are supposed to actually harvest them before they open up for the full medicinal value in the plant. So I definitely will stay on top of these. You can see some more coming in, so I want to make sure that because I'm not just growing these for their beauty, but for the medicinal properties that are in the plant. So those are looking good. I threw some little gem lettuce under this trellis, which I think is absolutely adorable. It is just so cute, this little lettuce. So cute. And then another Tom Thumb lettuce, which this radish, I direct sowed some watermelon radish here. Unfortunately, only 3 germinated, but I'm gonna let those 3 do their thing. I also direct sowed a sweet passion melon that those seeds were gifted to me, and it took longer than I anticipated for it to germinate, but I was excited this week to finally see that it had germinated and looked like it was growing, because I love melons. So I'm looking forward to that new variety this year. The Minnesota Midget melon has flowers growing on them. Happy to see those. More cosmos. This cosmo looks like it is getting ready to start blooming, which that's pretty exciting. I can't recall if it's the same variety as these over here, which I'm hoping that they're different, but I'm pretty sure they're probably the same. But they are just so beautiful. The bees have been loving the cosmos as well. I think I got some pictures this morning. And this tomato plant, let me see if I can, every day I come out, I've been checking it because it looked like this top leaf was curling up, and you can see it kind of a little bit here. I wasn't sure what was causing the curling. I wasn't confident that it was leaf curl, but I've never experienced that, so I'm not 100% sure. But it looks like it has straightened itself out. I wonder if I took a picture. It looks like it's straightened itself out. I read online that it could be the plant's self-preservation efforts if there's some kind of weather change, which our weather, we've been having, it's hot some days, then storming and raining, so watering has been a little bit of a challenge because it says it'll rain and then it doesn't rain, but I don't water. So I'm hoping that this will be okay, but it's also growing slower than all of the other tomatoes, but it is still growing. So I'm gonna get it on the stake and continue to just monitor it and pay attention to it. And so this bed has a variety of cucumbers, which again, I came in here and I cleaned these up yesterday. I came through and removed the, I don't know if they're called suckers like tomatoes, but came through and removed those extra leaves that were growing. And you can, the difference between before and after, and the airflow that was created from removing the extra leaves is major, because you want to ensure that your plants have breathing room, that there's air circulating, so that you are less likely to get disease, powdery mildew, those kind of things from the plants not being able to breathe. So I did come through and clean those up, and so that gave a little more space. There are a lot of pepper plants in here. So this is a Chinese 5 pepper, which you can see these beautiful purple flowers that are coming in. I'm excited about those. Those and the Buena Mulata peppers, I'm excited about seeing how those grow, because I think they are going to be beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. More squash. This tomato plant looks pretty well. It needs to be staked up also. Looks like it's curving a little bit, so I need to get that tied up. Finally this week, I added some flowers and other medicinal plants in these little pots that I got for free from my local nursery. This sun sugar tomato has grown significantly and has some flowers on it this week, so that is good to see. This calendula over in this corner in this bed is getting some flowers that are about to come in. This is where I pulled all of those radishes. I pulled a bunch of stuff this week because I was just tired of looking at it, and Again, I could tell the way that they were growing that they weren't in the soil enough, and I'm not sure why that happened because I direct sowed them, but the radish started forming above the soil. So I knew based on looking at them that I wasn't about to get a radish. So I just pulled those, and I'll probably sow some other seeds under there, maybe try spinach or some other green, even though I know it's getting ready to get hot outside. But hopefully the leaves from these cucumbers, which you can see are making their way up the trellis, will provide enough shade that they will grow some. And every week I always forget to mention these peas, but I'm not going to forget this week because they're giving me the most trouble. Covered in aphids, and I have sprayed this thing down, hosed it off. From my research and looking at videos this week, I'm thinking maybe this soil, perhaps from the compost, has a lot of nitrogen, which apparently makes the aphids come. So I was really, when I ripped out the radishes yesterday, I was going to rip this out as well, but there were so many peas on it, I didn't want to rip it out, and I decided to keep trying for this next week and see what happens. I just don't want them to start affecting the other plants and going elsewhere. So I'm going to continue to monitor. I'm going to come through and squish these that are on here today. There's actually less than yesterday. I've been doing some research per the advice of someone else on Instagram about the life cycle of aphids. So really trying to get a good understanding of that because I'm sick of them already and we're just getting started. So this will likely be gone in the next video. My kale is still holding on strong. I still plan on just leaving it here, letting it do its thing for as long as possible. And this yellow pear, not surprised to see how ginormous it is. Last year, the yellow pear tomato gave me so much fruit. I didn't even know what to do with all of it. So this is not surprising. But again, it needs to be staked up as well, tied up to the stake. And oh my gosh, I haven't even been looking closely at these. So the Brandywine tomatoes that I wasn't sure if I had cut the main branch off, what I cut off, I ended up just sticking in some dirt because if it was the main stem, I was like, I'm gonna get some tomatoes somehow. So I stuck this in some dirt. Look, it has a little flower. Problem is, I don't have anywhere to put it, so need to figure out that whole situation. These Kentucky Wonder beans are just growing up and up and up the trellis. Oh, they're going outside, which this happened last year as well. They grew. I had to go behind the fence to harvest beans last year. I harvested some tulsi this week and put it in the dehydrator. Smells absolutely amazing. And I keep seeing these little critters. What kind of bug is that? I really need to find out. Is it a friend or foe? This is about the third one that I've seen, so I need to figure that out. This is the kohlrabi that has the most damage. I did dig through the straw this week and found a couple of snails, so I got those removed and just gonna keep watching it. They're still growing. They also are getting starting to form the bulbs. I've had to hit this one with DE quite a few times. Finally, my red Russian kale, the only survivor. I had sowed, I believe, 4 seeds in here, and this is the lone survivor, but she is looking good. These beans are looking good as well. Up the trellis. And the lemongrass and lemon verbena, I harvested from both of those this week. I tucked some lemon balm in here. The chamomile is starting to take off after being neglected and transplanted for far too long. The lemongrass smells absolutely amazing. Milkweed that I still haven't transplanted. And of course, our chocolate mint in the fairy garden. They finally have their forest back. You can't even see their little sign in there. So this is week 3. Everything seems to be happy and healthy for the most part. Continuing this week to monitor the APHIDS situation, do some maintenance. The herbs in the small pots along the containers in the front are growing well. I've harvested from those to dry those herbs as well. So, as always, I love it out here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.